All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for CETL's first Lunch and Learn of the fall 23 semester. And I am thrilled to introduce my colleague, Shalini Upadhyaya. She's going to be giving us an interesting presentation on is it the Bokeh Effect? And how it can potentially affect our teaching as well as our students' learning. So I'm going to give the floor over to Shalini.
Thank you, Dr. Leyu. Thank you. Happy, beautiful, cool, little bit cooler day today in the Richmond area. I would like to welcome you to the first Lunch and Learn. Thank you to Dr. Jackson for, just when we were having the conversation, this is part of the faculty development she was envisioning at that point, and she allowed me to be the inaugural speaker here. So I was thinking, and I said, it's the beginning of the academic year at Reynolds, and I was just kind of watching Dr. Pando's Ride Along with Reynolds video. When I came here, she introduced the new faculty that we have here, the new colleagues in the School of Business, STEM, nursing, health professions. So keeping kind of all that in mind, I was thinking something to just kind of encourage us, right? Something to get into the right mode of working with our students and give you just a little bit of the foundation to springboard for the fall and spring semester. So what I'm talking about here is, you may very well have experienced it. We like taking pictures, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and as I was just, we were talking about, the pictures with our new, the virtual teaching, online teaching, distance learning, HiFlex, hybrid, Zoom backgrounds have become a very popular topic. Students like seeing them, students like seeing them change week to week if you're meeting on a synchronous basis. And so those are pictures. We take pictures. My son, just to kind of, my youngest just went off to college. And as I'm taking a lot of pictures of the kids, one day he said, I think you just got to put them in your mind and just remember about them, because we kind of smile a lot and you take pictures a lot. And, I was laughing. I said, yes, there's the memories in our head. But when we look at a snapshot, we look at a picture, we go back in time. We just started a discussion about the Yellowstone because of some pictures. And that created a thread of a conversation in the room. And then I got to learn a little bit more about my two colleagues in the room that I didn't know almost 30 seconds ago. Right? So any master teacher, so I know we have a couple of faculty or the ex-faculty or just taking a break from teaching for a little while in the room. Master teacher, right? That's kind of a term when you have arrived at a point in teaching where you consider yourself a master. When I first started teaching, I had a mentor. And she will come in and out of the classroom. Everything okay? Yes, great. You need any help? And then one day when I finish, about 6 months into my teaching, when I finished my lecture, I walked up and I said, so how did I do? I wanted to hear that you did very well, or you mastered the topic, or it was great. And Maria, my mentor, she paused and she said, when you walk out of the classroom after delivering the instruction, in the next 30 seconds, take time to just literally reflect on how you did. And that's your answer, how you did. No one else can tell you how well or where you need to improve. But you yourself will start to master the process where you will know where you needed to expand or where you needed to pull back, or it was wonderful. You're going to repeat the lecture again or the activity again. And that has kind of stuck with me. However, to be able to get there, to reflect there's certain things that I needed to work with, and I continue to work with. And one of them is, especially post-pandemic, is what are my students going through? Who are they? Are they the one that they put in the introduction discussion board? This is who I am, this is what I like to do? Or are they the one who submitted the assignment last night at midnight and the quality of the assignment? Or are the one who did not submit an assignment? Who are those students? And to get that answer, I kind of went back. And I said, where did I come from? Who am I as a teacher? So remember this? I think probably a few of us have used this. We may even have it in our somewhere attics or closets and things. This is where when I ask for how did I do, is what does the picture look like? We used to take a picture and we had to shake the picture for a little bit for maybe faster result and wait what the picture will turn out. That's kind of where we start as teachers, is that Polaroid. This is kind of where my first experience was. I was young back growing up in India, and my dad had traveled here to US, and he brought this camera first time. And quite a few rolls, which he had a hardest time going through customs without them being exposed back in the old time. And that the picture, we could maybe take 1 or 2 pictures every so often because you couldn't buy that roll in India. But that's how we know, is 30, almost 40 seconds later, what the outcome will be. And then you start to reflect, the next picture I'm going to adjust this way, or the lightning this way, or this needs to be. That's where we start as teachers. Fast forward, you have a phone in your hand. You can take a picture. I'm into photography. Camera looks something like this. It's got many buttons on it. It came with 3 books that I should be reading to make sure I can master the process. Our teaching comes with courses, with the manuals, with the websites, so we can master the process. Right? I don't think I'll ever be able to use all these buttons or master the use of this camera. Perhaps if I was a photographer in the profession earning my living, I probably would know all these, right? But then there is the next camera with the next buttons. So right now, this camera and these settings is where I rely on to what I'm using most and kind of work my way up, depending on the situation, what picture I'm taking, whose picture I'm taking, one small step at a time. So from that Polaroid, teaching at the very basic, this is where we are. All those modalities, all those learning management systems, all those ancillary books that we get with Connect and Pearson and McGraw-Hill and many of those extra websites that we try to bring into, the open education resources, those are the buttons. And we have to put them together and deliver it and receive the product at the end. Anything in the chat? Yes?
No comments so far.
Okay. So it takes time to master all those buttons of the teaching that will make us a great teacher or a master teacher or a virtual teacher or in-classroom teacher or maybe a high flex or a hybrid. All these buttons in this camera and the camera before. I think it's frozen for a bit. So, as I'm sitting, taking pictures, looking back through the pictures, this kind of I really like is taking a picture of what is important to me, right? My children, my belongings, my family, or the object that I'm about to take a picture of and perhaps use it later sometime as a part of conversation or something in life. And the term in photography is bokeh or bokeh. And when I started to kind of say, what is that? And I started to take pictures. That's when I realized, hey, what if I were to bring that and use that as part of my growth into teaching? Almost in 2019, when we first, at the late 2019, early 2020, when we first went off and we were all in this Zoom and trying to discover new ways, there was one class that I had taught, and there was students in there. It was a Friday evening class, and every time they will log into Zoom, there will be, the class had about 20 students, but there was always about 30 bodies showed up in Zoom. Many students were moms and dads. In the evening, they were picking up children. They would have me on the phone. If they were driving, they would have me on the phone. Or if they were going through drive-through, they had me on the phone while I was doing the class. The children were there. And I just happened to run one of those students downstairs at the campus, and she introduced me. We had never met in person. Her children have graduated, who used to be in the background. And she's about to graduate in December with her last semester here in the nursing program. What we connected was not the content, was that bokeh effect. At the point when I was in the classroom with her, I focused on the student. Her name is Jennifer. There was a lot going on in the background. She was always trying to juggle. So much so at some point, I had to remind myself that there are some noise in the background with her, or she may need to step back into that attention to give. But my focus was just Jennifer, is how I will work and connect with Jennifer. That's the bokeh effect. So according to the internet, the wiki, the aesthetic quality of the blur produced in out of focus parts of an image caused by circle of confusion. That's kind of pretty much many times we get into teaching. Lots of confusion. I don't know what's going on. Could you help me? Has anybody received that email? I don't know what's going on, right? And you're saying, but I gave the instructions step by step. Those are your instruction, our instruction, right? Our students kind of sometimes get into the circle of confusion. Our class is not the only thing they are working. They have a lot of blur, a lot of out of focus in their background. Bokeh describes itself as aesthetic quality, something that's beautiful, something that's appealing. That's our students. So going back to the bokeh effect or bokeh effect is to pull that student out regardless of what else is in the background, what else is out of focus, what else is blurred. A photo is a snapshot of time. So this picture right now sits on the VCCS homepage in one of the tabs. And I remember exactly, I've been looking at it, there's some writing in the background, and that's my colleague Montague on the right-hand side as well in a separate setting here. But I clearly remember the day. It was a super hot day. And I was in a classroom in Parham campus in one of the classrooms. And I was teaching this class. But as I was teaching, because it was hot, I had just traveled from my home, I can come to the classroom. I was super thirsty as well. See the topic in the back? Water cycle I'm talking about, right? I didn't have water in the classroom. That's my memory of it, right? So the snapshot here is what you're looking at as me as a student. When I'm looking at my own picture here, I can kind of put other stuff together here. That's the snapshot. When a student is sitting in your classroom, he or she they have a whole lot going on behind in the back. I tend to when I create my syllabus and I look at the due dates, I'm looking at my schedule. And one of the strategies that I have started to work with is when I'm looking for the due dates for the classroom, what that needs to be submitted is I look at the due dates and then I look at my schedule. After the due date, when is it time in my schedule, the soon after the due date, I can grade the assignments, right? So for example, if I say Monday midnight, everything is due, is my Tuesday morning available to be able to get into the work and grade and provide the feedback, right? That is one of the quality matters principle as well, right? Quick feedback, immediate feedback. Immediate not meaning within an hour or so, but if I couldn't set my Tuesday morning aside, or Wednesday morning, or Thursday morning, and a Friday morning, now we are going into next Monday and the next set of assignment being due, and I still haven't provided the feedback, right? So that's kind of one of the strategy to focus on the student, not just finding a time where things should be due. I had to find my schedule and customize the due date based on when I can give undivided attention to the work. So in this case, my Tuesday mornings are set aside for grading. I will work to the Bokeh Effect to ensure my students get the immediate feedback, quality feedback soon after the work is due. So that's something that you may want to consider as well is when you're looking to set up the classrooms, is it may just help to align your schedules, your timeline with what the student has submitted. Now, many times the student will submit it, they're really not expecting an answer right away. But during the first week and the second week, when we have started to give the focus to them the Tuesday morning, all of a sudden the message is sent, oh, I need to turn this in because Tuesday morning, she's going to tell me how I did, what I did, and what's my next step. Do I need to make a revision? Do I need to resubmit it? Or am I failing it? Or am I passing it? Whatever the parameters that you may have set, right? So remember what's important. Let everything else be blurry in the background. Do we have a favorite photographer, folks, or anybody has a, if you'd like to take pictures, any photographers and stuff, do you like to take pictures? I don't know. If anybody has pictures they want to share in the Zoom, I would love to kind of address that. Any photographers come to mind?
I'm a huge fan of Ansel Adams.
There we go.
So,
I'm going to go. Very good. See? I'm in great company here with Dr. Leahy here. So I'm going to come back. The single most important component of a camera is the 12 inches behind it. That's our teaching. When you're sitting in Zoom, notice the distance, how far you are between you and the student. That's all matters, right? The 12 inches far to being close. It takes time to master the teaching. From the Polaroid to DSLR. Keep the important part in focus, and that is your student. His background, her background, their backgrounds. Well, if you can't complete it today, then that's it. Think about it. Is the learning outcomes mastery is better rather than the mode of presentation the student chose to deliver it? Google Slides versus the PowerPoint versus the documentation? Yes. Well, the flip side of the argument is that employers would want it a certain way. When they want PowerPoint, we want to be able to say that students can do PowerPoint, right? For a class, perhaps maybe a Microsoft Office class, yes, that's a learning outcome. within ours, our focus that starts from learning outcome to the students is have they mastered the objective of that learning outcome. The delivery, the mode of delivery, how important is that? Is the timing important? Any comments on the timing? Has the submission, when is due, and your student, who is the point of your focus, anything else is blurry in the background? Does the timing, submission of timing matter versus mastering the objective perhaps 2 days later?
Are you asking me?
Anybody, anybody. I see Amanda has joined, Phyllis, anybody.
Yeah, to me, the priority is always on what's learned. And this is where I think what you're getting at here is a beautiful point, is to stay focused on what we're doing here,
Yes,
the teaching and learning.
yes, yes. And timing does matter, right? We also have our focuses in on life, our families, and the other things that comes with the family. So this 24/7 grading cycle cannot continue just on time. So a colleague of mine were talking about earlier, a due date perhaps better in focus now is a suggested date, a target date. At the same time, there might be some sometime where you absolutely need to establish the deadline, right? Send that message, keeping in focus that that's important to you, and make that important to your student as well. But mastery of the learning objective, regardless of the modality, regardless of a strict timeline, that's the blur. The focus is the student succeeds with the credentials that he, she, or they may need. And how do we achieve that? Be patient with yourself. And just improve little bit at a time. Remember what's important and then let the rest be in the background. That's the Bokeh Effect. So I will address any questions, probably one of the shortest Lunch and Learn series. Perhaps if we did have a larger group, maybe we'll try next time. And, probably a little bit more, I was leaving room for questions and some pictures and stuff as well. But that's what I have for today. So thank you for your 30 minutes. I appreciate it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, I think it would be interesting to maybe have a little bit of a discussion as to what do we all think should be some of the things that come to the foreground versus what we can release to the background. So to me, again, I think it comes back to that idea of learning outcomes should be first, but what can you sort of release or let go of a little bit? So like you're saying with the due dates, right? You can be more flexible. But what are some other things that other folks on Zoom, for example, what have you found that you've become a little more relaxed with as you've gone through teaching?
Has you gone from Polaroid to DSLR? Or teaching? What have you learned to let go? Yes.
So I see Ehab, you have a hand up. I'd say go ahead, unmute yourself and chat.
Yes, so there is a question I will address first. Dr. Merrill has asked, thank you, Dr. Merrill. How do you share learning outcomes with your student? Are they aware of your expectation of them at the start of the course? Very, very good point. So, as a part of the CETL training, and my guru right here, Dr. CJ, Dr. Brecken, you can take it, is ages ago, I'm always teach me so I can be better for my students. As a part of Quality Matters training, learning objectives need to be established and shared with the student. By the end of this lesson, you will learn to write a lab report. Content, teach them how to write the lab report, and the assessment is aligned as well. Now you have learned to write the lab report by doing this activity. So yes, for each weekly task, each module, each unit, each topic, students are shared that learning outcome at the beginning, and at the end when they're taking the assessment for it, it says this assessment relates to this learning outcome. And if you, so that way it kind of all brings it together. So hopefully I answered that question. All the students are aware of that, and every assessment lines to what learning outcome it relates to. And I know Ehab had raised hand, so let me go.
Thank you very much for such an insightful presentation, Shalini. I would like going back to Dr. Leyu's question about and your insight as well. Sometimes I find myself switching between things. Like sometimes I bring certain things like to the front and put other items in the depending on what is the task in hand or what I want my students to learn this particular week. So yes, deadlines may be extremely important, maybe for a couple of weeks. And then if I'm teaching an online class, then maybe the engagement between students and having the discussions and and enriching that might come more to the foreground, just to make sure that that component is also addressed in the class. So I find myself sometimes switching items and of course creating announcements, creating activities where the students can easily tell what is most important this week and what is lesser important for this particular week.
Yes, that's very good. Flexibility matters. Flexibility adds quality and accountability, because you wouldn't want to do something just because that's all you have done for all your life for all the topics, right? So I really like hearing that you adjust based on what the topic is, and you stay in touch with your students via announcements and emails and any other mode of communication that you have. That's very good technique. I'm going to commend you. I commend you for that, and I'm sure your students love it as well. Do you provide something in before or after? So next week, announcement to the fact that we will change because, or do you simply deliver it? That's where, because you think, that is a better way to deliver that content.
I would say the mode of the delivery as well as the announcement of what is going to be the task in hand for the following week. I typically send my announcements on a Saturday morning, and just to give them, for those who check their emails during the weekend, they can get into the mode of what is more important the following week, and that gives them enough time to know what we will be focusing on moving forward.
Very good, very good. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Anyone else? Neha, Amanda?
That's an excellent point, and I agree with everything you just said. One of the things that I try to do is try to tie courses together. I am in the medical records coding program, and we do ICD 10 and I teach CPT, and I find that I can't be or shine the spotlight only on CPT. I have to, at the beginning of the semester, ask them what they have remembered from the previous class. So that is not the focus of this semester. However, it needs to be tied in because next semester, all of them are integrated. So the focus is different each semester, but how do you tie it in so they get the whole picture?
Yeah, that's important where you are teaching those courses within a certain discipline that are important as a sequence, and students need to be reminded not just to leave that, because that remains there, a snapshot. Remember what was in that photo, take this photo and then carry it over to next. So that's very good suggestion. Sometime it comes in play in our science topics that may have some mathematics into it. Remember what you did if sometime they're doing some sort of standard deviation or some sort of analysis or something. And I have even brought some time my colleagues from mathematics to help us as well. So that's great. Amanda is here as in the chat. I do a certification course, tried schedule for assignments, but have found that an absolute final due date and breaking down similar concept taught into buckets with recommended completion date for each bucket. Since my students are working adults, this is how I give them flexibility. You've got the best of both worlds. That's great. You put in focus, working. That's what I see it, right? Working. Your student audience is working adults. And you made that as your focus. And rest you blurred it out. And then you created these buckets of similar concept where the term you use, let me see, an absolute final due date and breaking down, right? So yeah, that's great. Boundaries, students appreciate boundaries. Please don't get me wrong that in my class, they just turn in willy-nilly. There is an assignment checklist that they receive at the beginning of the year, right? Same thing as my colleagues that you are striving to do as well. But I still have to bring my student in focus, and what if it's working, if it's a parent, if it's a caregiver, or if it's simply the one who has very hard time taking care of themselves, and they need support from us, such as single stop and any of the college support system that's set up for them. I have to put that in blur, help them as a student, and connect them with the other resources. So I really like that what you use here, Amanda, is that.
So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So it's funny, the person who just spoke, you said coding and billing, that's exactly where I am, but I don't do a series of courses, I do strictly certification. So the whole focus of the course is to go sit for certification. Very fast-paced, very intense, and when the first day I go down, I do the meet and greet, if you will, and I say, who of you has 1 job, 2 jobs, 3 jobs? You have children, this age group. And my whole point is to kind of communicate, I'm a working adult too. I get it. I give you the space to figure out how to manage your time and all these competing priorities. And it takes them a while to adjust to it because I think they're expecting these, when is it due? When is it due? When is it due? And I'm like, no, just have everything done by this date. That's all I care about. And then I give that recommended because it's you do need to, you're doing your best if you keep up with and don't wait to the final minute. And again, I found it to be the best of all. It also keeps me from getting stressed out by where's this assignment, emails. I give them ownership of their experience.
Yeah, because you identified they're working adults. So working adults comes with, with a little bit of the notion that they can handle the work. They handle the responsibility. And what you said, you give them the ownership back to work with what you're providing and deliver the concept. So yes, they probably find, so how is she being so flexible? But as you have noticed, it is obviously working in your classroom.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing. Yes, I really, you're working and your ownership. Those are the words that I grabbed on and focus on. So
Okay.
thank you.
Uh-huh.
So I just wanted to say thank you, Shalini, for this great presentation. And I so agree. Thank you, Amanda, for that insight. I do have working adults as well. And I think just providing those 2 words as to, taking responsibility and focus, I think is going to help me too. I do teach the dental assistant program. So my students, I think this Bokeh effect, I didn't even know it's called that, but I think that's where we are headed to. Like in every class of mine, yes, there is an agenda, there is an expectation, but again, the focus lies on, the snapshots taken from the previous lecture, and then it's like, okay, this is what is important. This is what you take away, because practical in dental assistant is like you have to repeat the same procedure again and again till you master it. because that's where your job depends upon it. So I love it. And that's what I do is revise the previous snapshot and then just one or two snapshots from the current lecture. And I think that really helps them keep on the job, because dentistry is so wide that you can't cover it in three semesters.
Right, yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Cameras have those buttons. The Polaroid didn't have that button adjusting earlier, right? That's when we first started. Based on what our audience has changed, our profession has changed, our DSLR has changed with so many buttons. And there is a button for flexibility and adjusting, zooming in, zooming out, and perhaps a snapshot like a portrait mode or a landscape. So you're using, my colleagues, I really am in awe of you. You're using all those buttons of that very developed machine to become on your way of becoming that master teacher. And I am confident the minute you stepped out of a podium in any format you're teaching, you have delivered the content, you feel good because you have done a great job. So thank you. Thanks for being here today. Thank you. I'm here anytime to have a dialogue, some sort of roundtable or over the lunch discussion, informal, to hear your ideas, and please continue to share with us. So appreciate it. Thank you.